Fluids and Circulation, Session 9. In this module, we are going to learn about the cardiac cycle. Cardiac cycle is a sequence of electrical and mechanical events. So the two events are electrical and mechanical events at the time of each heartbeat. And the sequence of events taking place at the time of each heartbeat is called as a cardiac cycle. And it involves two phases, the diastole and systole. Diastole means the relaxation of the chambers of the heart, and systole means the contraction of the heart chambers. When the diastole is taking place, the heart ventricles relax, which allows the ventricles to get filled with blood. And during systole, the ventricles contract to pump the blood into the arteries. There are different phases of cardiac cycle. The first is joint diastole. During joint diastole, all the chambers, that is the two atria and two ventricles, are in the relaxed state, and this is called as a joint diastole. As the bicuspid and the tricuspid valves are open, we know these are the valves at the atrioventricular septum, and these valves are open. The blood from the pulmonary vein and vena cavas. Pulmonary vein carries the oxygenated blood from the lungs and empties it into the left atrium, and vena cavas are large veins which carry the deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body and empties it into the right atria. And blood from the right and left atria flows into the respective ventricles as the cuspid valves are open. And at this time of joint diastole, the semilunar valves are closed. Semilunar valves are closed at this stage. When the heart pumps blood, a heartbeat is generated by the systole or contraction and diastole or relaxation of the chambers of the heart. A heartbeat involves a sequence of events called as cardiac cycle. On average, a heart beats 72 times per minute, which means 72 cardiac cycles per minute. Thus, one cardiac cycle takes 0.8 seconds. The cardiac cycle starts with the four chambers in a relaxed state or joint diastole. The arterial pressure causes the bicuspid and tricuspid valves to open. This allows the blood to the vena cava and pulmonary vein into the right and left ventricles through the right and left atria respectively. The semilunar valves are closed at this time. The joint diastole is followed by the arterial systole, which consists of the contraction of the right and left atria, which is followed by an electrical stimulation. The electrical stimulation is caused when the SA node, that is the sinoatrial node, generates an action potential that contracts both the atria called as the atrial systole. This increases the blood pressure in both the left and right atria, so the blood can be pumped into the ventricles. During this, the AV valves, that is the tricuspid and bicuspid valves, are open and the semilunar valves are again closed, and it takes about 0.1 seconds. So joint systole is followed by atrial systole, in which the atrial walls contract due to the generation of an action potential at the SA node. The SAN produces an action potential that induces both the atria to contract at the same time, forcing more blood into the ventricles. The atrial systole is followed by the ventricular systole, in which the action potential from the SA node passes to the AV node, that is the atrioventricular node, and from the atrioventricular node it passes to the bundle of His, which is spread over the ventricles. and this induces the ventricular musculature to undergo ventricular systole. During ventricular systole, there is contraction of the right and left ventricles, which is again followed by the electrical stimulation, which I had just told. The AV nodes are closed, that is, the tricuspid and bicuspid valves are closed during ventricular systole, and the semilunar valves are forced to open due to the pressure caused by the blood which is collected in the ventricles, and it takes about zero point 0.3 seconds. The ventricular pressure increases due to the increased volume of blood, which causes the closure of the bicuspid and tricuspid valves and therefore prevents the backflow of blood to the atria. The action potential from the SA node travels to the AV node and passes down the ventricles through the bundle of His. This causes the ventricular contraction or systole and at the same time the atrial relaxation or diastole. The ventricular systole causes the opening of the semilunar valves at the pulmonary artery and aorta. This causes the pumping of blood from the right ventricle to the pulmonary artery and left ventricle to the aorta. The ventricular systole is followed by the ventricular diastole or relaxation, causing the closure of semilunar valves to prevent the backflow of blood from the pulmonary artery and aorta to the right ventricle and left ventricle respectively. At the same time, the atrial pressure causes the cuspid valves to open and allows the flow of blood from atria to ventricles. Now the four chambers are again in joint diastole or relaxation. The sequence of event is repeated again as the SAN generates another action potential resulting in a cardiac cycle. Dear children, in this module we learnt that a heartbeat involves a sequence of events called as cardiac cycle. The different events or phases in a cardiac cycle are joint diastole, the atrial systole, ventricular systole, followed by joint diastole. Thank you.